Welcome to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO, Chief Scientist at Zorka Profiles, along with my co-host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Tracy, we have a very special guest today. Krystal Greenhaw is a franchisee with Wise Coatings in Raleigh, North Carolina. Wise Coating is a specialized concrete coatings company. So what you want to think about is epoxy floors, but much bigger. She has a passion for customer service and is a sucker for a hard working day, giggles from her children, and a great home cooked meal from her husband. Can't get
Nice.
much better than unless you're going to have some Mexican food and margaritas, right? Krystal brings 14 years of experience from her prior roles in healthcare IT industry as an associate director managing a team of 20 people. She specializes in management, customer service, problem solving, critical thinking, leadership, and much, much more, pulling her skills as a previous high school women's lacrosse coach as well. Why did she shift from healthcare IT and end up owning a concrete coatings business? You might be asking. Well, let's find out. Let's ask her some questions. Welcome to the show, Krystal.
Thank you.
That actually was a great question. Why
Yeah.
did you
How the heck did you
what
go from
how do you go
healthcare?
from home care to wise coatings? How did that
Yeah.
happen?
A lot of self-reflection is the quick answer. No, it was quite a lot of things that piled on over the years. I was so happy in the corporate position, but it just kind of turned south a little bit for me after the pandemic. A lot of things changed day to day, and I was so unhappy in sitting at home, no longer being in the office and managing people I can't physically see face to face. I just felt like I was a manager that couldn't keep up with a new way to work. And I tried for 3 years and never felt like I was fully given all of me. And I tend to do that in a career where I reflect every 2 or 3 years of, am I happy? Am I giving everything I can give? Am I using all the skill sets I've acquired? The answer was no. My husband had been pushing me for years that we could do something different on our own, not corporate 9 to 5. And turned around one day and told him I'm ready. Because my last straw was working late again in the office at home, and my son was 4 years old and wanted color. He's about to be 5, and 30 minutes, 40 minutes. That turned into an hour, and that was my last straw one night was him getting up to walk away. And I said, I'm ready, buddy. Let's, color, and I'm done. And I looked at the ground, and the picture was me on the computer that he drew. And that was my
Mm,
everyday for 50, 55 hours a week, working too much, diving in. And it just wasn't the value and happiness anymore that I felt like I used to have for years.
yeah, it's
Wow. What
amazing.
a story. That gave me chills. So,
Mm,
30 minutes, 40 minutes to a small child is forever, right? To us working and we're focused, that doesn't sound like that long, but that simple thing, looking at that piece of art he made and he's now done, shifted you from I'm in a corporate role that I'm being successful at. Maybe I'm not super happy because of the changes with COVID, but it made you go, I got to reevaluate my life. So I have a two-part question here, actually, Krystal. One is how did you know you were unhappy? And how do you know when you are happy? What gives you one versus the other?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, to me, the simple answer is if I finished my workday at the end of the day and I shut it off and I felt like there was some form of value or some form of fulfillment at the end of the day or the end of the week. I found that I was losing the feeling that I was giving anything back. There was a lot being taken energetically wise and speaking of energy. And, um, it was times I didn't want to start the day. I woke up and I didn't want to start my work day. There was very few of those days prior to feeling like I'd progressed into a position that I wasn't really meant to be in anymore. Um, and part of it was me telling myself that, I have this crush of not being good enough, which is where my husband has always stepped in and said, you are more than enough. So it's hard to admit that it's not me. This is a difference in a career. This is a difference in a work environment. And doesn't mean I'm not good enough as a manager. It means I can't be the best I can be, should be in this environment. So it was just part of having days I broke down crying, having days I didn't want to go in to work, feeling like I ended the day and didn't bring any value to anyone or anything. And feeling at some point like, even though I can succeed in anything I do and I'm extremely passionate and I can persevere tremendously through challenge, I felt like I was seeing all the positives and there still wasn't enough at the end of the day to kind of make me feel like I was back in my happy place.
That's amazing. Do you think that like you can get your work done, a person can get their job done, but still not be offering anything of value?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's human connection is the number one thing for me in a job. It's what am I doing for other people around that, this is just a job. We're going to retire at a certain age. You're going to die at a certain age. No one knows if it's a year after you retire. Am I going to give 40 years of my life to a business and live another year? And is it worth it? Am I doing what I was supposed to be doing? Am I doing what I think I was born to do? And all those questions just surfaced, and the answer was no. So yeah, you can check the boxes, and to me, it's no different than going on a date and you meet someone that checks all the boxes on paper, but there's no spark. You've got to feel like you did something, your passion, your purpose.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is, Krystal. That at the end of the day, we can mark the boxes. We did our to-do list, so to speak. But if you don't feel in some way you contributed added value to someone else, it just feels empty for you in that way. So I guess my question around that is this need that you had to bring value, to make a difference. Where does that come from, this serving others?
Definitely my mom. I mean, that was the embodiment of her struggles growing up. My dad was a pretty severe alcoholic and they didn't stay married for long after I was born. So watching her continue to put the children first was always mom's a saint. I remember saying that, everyone in my family, there was so many people that would give their shirt off their backs. Just good people, embodied you put others first. From my uncle and my grandfather that felt like dads instead of their title. The whole doing more than what the job tells you to do, right? And then it was just being sick with my, heart issues growing up. I felt like I would go to the hospital and I would meet people or I would surgery, and nurses that are paid to be a nurse shouldn't really care about how I feel. But seeing them put me first and want me to feel better and want me healthy, that was a big thing growing up in the hospital, which is why I felt so connected to Duke for a long time, many, many years. It was hard to leave. I felt that connection that deep. And I remember walking through the children's hospital hallway with heart problems. And I don't think I was terribly sick when I would meet friends that had brain cancer and tumors and terminal sickle cell. They were terrible, compared to what I had. But there was a sign on the hallway I used to pass when we went up for appointments, and it said, "Illness is the greatest educator." And I always wondered what people would be learning. How would you take that? I always read it as be grateful. Those are some of the things I'm happy about. So I think that's all that kind of situation growing up with my narrative of my family and my friends and my folks at the hospital taking care of me, kind of all built that as a child, me growing into an adult, for taking care of other people, focus on other people.
Amazing. So you watched it in your mom, you watched it in your uncle, other family members that put others first. While you were ill and going to Duke for your heart issues, you watched it in the nurses and in the doctors. And this wasn't once, it wasn't twice, it was a lot. So tell me about the relationships you built during this. How long was it? The 12 years where you were sick with the.
A long time, yeah. About 4 was when I first ended up having some of the cardiac issues and just got sick. Just got really sick and had a viral infection and nothing I was born with. but it just was very hard to diagnose. And I had one cardiologist in particular. I built a very strong relationship. Dr. Canner was like a dad to me, is what I told people. It was probably 16 or 17 years before I had my pacemaker and the surgery, and everything was normal again. I could wake up and feel healthy and know what normal was for the first time. And then that's kind of when my husband came along, not long after that, hitting college. And a friend of mine introduced us. Y'all had heart problems. You guys need to meet. Come to find out, small world, same cardiologist, actually, when he was from Texas and I was from North Carolina. So we are married, considered it my soulmate, been together for 19 years, married for 15.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, incredible.
A love story based on a heart trauma.
Exactly. But we're both healthy. No one would ever know. We don't talk about it. We just move on and take the next step. And people are surprised. They're floored when they know about the history we've had. We're both healthy. We're athletic. We're in shape. We don't take advantage of every day. And, we have our stampedes every year in Florida with Whitney, who is our CEO for the franchise. Brandon Vaughn is a big part as well for our business. And last year's Stampede, I got us to skip all the lines at the roller coaster for a 2-hour wait because of my pacemaker, and it was a disaster because it's such a crazy story. But it's dead, it doesn't work anymore. I'm healthy and I'm cleared, but they don't take them out. So the metal would sit off the machine. The employees wouldn't understand why it did. They thought I was lying to them. Manager had to come down. Finally, everything was cleared and they understood. And the whole Wise crew got to bypass the 1.5 or 2 hour wait on that roller coaster. And we all rode it. And Brandon said, "All right, Krystal, whatever you just did, we're doing it again on the next one."
I love it. I love it. So, Krystal, give us the transition. We are unhappy in the job. And then why Wise Coatings? What was it that was perfect about that? How did that align with who you are? This part of you that wants to serve and put other people first. How did it all line up? I'm thinking epoxy floors. I don't get I'm having trouble putting all that together. So tell me how you put it together.
Yeah. Well, we are big soul searchers. My husband and I frequently, every 2 years or so in our career, ask ourselves, are we using all the skills we can use? Are we happy? So we'd already been discussing multiple businesses, but we got with a franchise consultant and decided to expand our horizons a little bit more and take some more personality tests and learn more, and we're also financially wanting to make a smart decision with 2 very young children. At the time, I had just had our second child. So obviously that's a big risk to have a baby, a newborn, a toddler in daycare, and $3,000 bill a month for daycare. So it's like, also, what can we do that's smart? Daycares are very attractive to me, but that's a very large financial investment up front. So there was reasons such as that, like logic, finances. There was reasons of what makes us happy in our current skill set. We know well home services were really high scores for my husband and I, because we really like to take care of the things we purchase. We like things to feel new again. We like to freshen things up. We like to work hard with our hands. The turnover and staffing issues that can happen owning a business. We thought, what can be quick to train, easy to train, quick to hire. And there's the whole, I'm a big fan of a couple business mentors. So you'll hear people, product, and process commonly. So we thought, okay, what's people, product, and process in every business? So several people ruled out immediately within the first 30 minutes, if you're a fit, right? Then there's processes, what processes are in place, and what about the product? What are we selling? What are we doing here? Because obviously you're not selling it's on paper, you're selling yourself and your family and your business and your legacy. And Wise hit everything from the minute we met people. The big one was their culture, BASE, BASE, it's Buffalo, it's cows run from storms and buffaloes charge. That's my husband and I. We don't give up. More so me than him. I will find a way through. There will be no answer that's no. And the A is ascending, helping people grow, which is huge for us with our staff and for ourselves. We should always be moving forward and up and pushing everybody else up around us. The S is serving. Serving was massive, which we talked about earlier. And the E is efficiency. How do we become quicker? My IT background and data, it was There's always ways to do things better. But it was just so turnkey, move-in ready for a franchise that it was attractive, that it hit all the other personality traits as well with us. So that's where we settled, was Wise.
What does the B stand for?
Buffalo. So when
Buffalo.
storms come in, cows actually will run as far as they can, as long as they can away from a storm. Buffaloes will herd together and charge storms.
Towards it.
Mhm.
Interesting.
So Buffalo was big.
So you basically found this company whose values align with your values. Buffalo, ascending, serving, efficiency.
Right. And they have to just, the gut part you can't put your finger on, the it factor is people. You know, when you meet them, do they actually put the money where the mouth is? Do they live the things they do? And they do. We met them. We met other franchisees. We met the owners, we met the president. You know, it's the CEO. They do what they say they're going to do, which for me, at the end of the day, saying what you do and doing what you say is a massive statement. I tell my children weekly, and they do.
It's integrity, right? It's about integrity.
Mhm.
Right.
For sure. Thank you for sharing that Buffalo's story, because it's a beautiful analogy of running towards the storm as a herd, rather than scattering and being independent and going opposite directions, right?
Right.
So beautiful analogy. You used a word a little bit ago, legacy, and how that's important to you. Can you share a little bit more about what you mean by legacy? Is that a name on a building? Is it acquiring a lot of wealth? What is legacy to you, and why is it important in your life and in your business?
Right. I coached high school girls lacrosse, and I had to mentor and counsel and mom and every job in the book I could put down for those girls. But a big one was I would tell them your character is who you are when no one's looking, and your legacy is what you choose to leave behind. And for me, I had to think on those words a long time years ago. And for me, it's what am I leaving behind? And the answer was never clear to me until I had my children. It's like my children, it's my family, you know, and it's I don't care if I have a funeral. I don't care if anybody cries, you know, but at the end of the day, I hope they do. But the bigger thing is, what did I do when I was here for other people? What did I teach my children when I'm gone one day? And are they going to want to carry on this legacy of our business we're starting, you know, for many years to come with the same qualities, same characteristics, same values? So legacy to me is that it's my family.
It's your family.
So are your kids involved with your business? Is your husband involved with your business?
Yes. Yep. He still works full time. So we're kind of being a little strategic in our transition here of ownership. So obviously it's nice to have one stable job and I full time run, you know, the franchise. The kids are still pretty little, but my son has done demo boards. We told him when he was in kindergarten, he's the first 5-year-old who's ever done a demo board for a garage floor. He's come with me on estimates. You know, I have more free time with him, even though there's always a negative to find in something, but I always try to find where's the positive, even on the negative days. And if I can't, the first person stepping in is my husband. This isn't you, you know, just to remind me. And there was one story last year. I was mortified because this customer was so great. She was older and kids were older and retired, and her home was beautiful. And it was a museum walking in. And it's beautiful. She was so kind as far as come into the home and do these things. And, you know, you can use the restroom, but I didn't want to be in the home. It was dirty. You know, I was working on the floors. I was down staff. And I remember coming back to give her 4 options of colors, and my son was with me. And things just seemed like we're set. She's sold with us. She's bought in. She trusts us. And I turned around for 2 seconds, and my son had stepped on some of the epoxy paint, you know, pigments, and walked all over her porch, and it was everywhere. And I was mortified, and ended up buying her a $150 gift card as an apology and teaching my son why we did that, how much money that was, which he was shocked by. But in the moment, it's she sold with us, and we did her floors, and she called us months later, and we did her back patios as well. And it's part of a story that's, again, it's legacy, right? He learned an accident, and it could have been negative. It could have been, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened, and mortified, but it wasn't. It was a learning point, and the customer was great. It all worked out.
That's great.
Thank you for sharing that. I recall years ago, when I was doing a lot of public speaking and traveling, and I was a single mom, my kids went with me. And they would be in the classroom with all these entrepreneurs and learning. And my son, 6 years old, in those days you wore suits and ties, you were all kind of fancy. Right now we're a little more casual. And he would want to wear his tie and little suit to kind of fit in. And the things that he must have learned vicariously by just observing. And what that brought up for me in the story with your little one, and the lesson he got to learn and getting to be with his mom, is with our school systems and the way things are set up now, it's children are removed from day-to-day business of their families. In fact, we're told not to discuss financial situations and job situations, that let them be children, let them go to school and play and do whatever. What are your thoughts on that? Because it sounds to me you are comfortable including them and see the blessings that come from that.
Yeah, I can see the value of him having his time as a child, his time in school. I mean, there needs to be a divide, but there's also times where I take full advantage because that was the biggest goal of having a business was I want more time. So there's, for instance, when he's on work days and I'm taking off and I'm going to find where we get to spend time together because you have a teacher work day today. Normally, I would be finding a reason why I can't use PTO for that time with him, which was sad.
Uh,
And with a business, I find when there's no PTO in the bucket, every moment matters. So it's something where I agree with the divide, but I definitely don't agree with them learning the value of work and learning that additional time with their parents because we don't know how long we have, right? So I take him when I can. I take him if he's sick. Um, my daughter's a little too young still to kind of grasp it. She knows that mommy's going to work. The separation that happened that I saw blossom with my husband and her as a baby. Obviously, mama's girl, breastfeeding the first year. It's hard to find that detachment where I'm going to be gone for 4 days overnight. And to watch me own the business and my husband to fully let me have that, like you said, I've got her. And the relationship between daddy and daughter suddenly last year that just blossomed that I can have a minute to myself, it's great. Like there's so many ways to find the balances there. Keeping them at school for the right reasons, finding when they have time with us and running our business right through. And, his lesson was what he learned with us, but he also learned like mistakes happen and how do you make it right? Just because it's a mistake doesn't mean there's not accountability. And that was a big thing we talked about. And I thought that was a good day for a lesson he's never going to learn in school.
Yeah, that's really great. I think that, kids in school obviously don't get that opportunity to have that real world experience. And like you said, for better or worse, right? Like he's learning that some days are great days in business and some days may be less than great days in business, but it's okay. It adds to their resilience. Do you think?
mhm.
I agree. And I attribute that when they done better.
Wait, the sound cut out. Can you just say that again?
I think we lost
Can you
some
hear me?
sound.
Got to trade headphones. The battery died.
Uh-oh.
That's I think that's so precious because he must have been mortified, but at the same time, mom's handling it with kindness and explaining to him,
Mhm.
what went wrong in that scenario and talking it through. It's really beautiful.
It is beautiful.
He's probably going to be a little entrepreneur when he grows up.
Yeah, so Crystal's working on her battery and her sound there. But yeah, I really am a big proponent of including children in these things. They don't have to be apprentice, right? Or intern, but walking side by side the way Crystal did with her son, where he gets to experience customer service, making a boo-boo, fixing it, putting other people's needs firsthand. It is not just a lesson that we learn out of a book. This is a real life lesson that he got. Crystal, are your plans, you and your husband's, you mentioned maybe your husband will come into the business. What about your children? Are you hoping that they will carry on this legacy with Wise Coatings?
I sure hope so. Sorry for the battery dying. Is that good now?
Yeah, you're good.
Switch them out. Yeah. I sure hope so. That's the goal. I mean, that was one of the discussions my husband and I had is not only what we enjoy and what's about our skills, but what can our children also find value and want to carry on as well without pushing it. If they don't, it's 10-year contracts at a time. And we said, we'll find the next step if they don't enjoy it. So
Yeah. So do you mind backtracking for me? Because I'm trying to digest something you said way early about happiness. I'm a baby boomer. I don't think we ever used the word happy, right? It was sludge your way through and get the work done and be appreciative you have food on the table. How can someone be more cognizant of that? That really is something we should strive for, a pursuit of happiness, right? That kind of thing. What advice would you have for someone to be able to go, am I happy? What makes me happy? And to have the courage then to make some changes if they're not.
I think it starts every day. I mean, I said earlier when I was talking about my career, I would wake up in the morning and I would end the day not feeling like I gave any value. So I think it just comes with asking yourself, did I feel like I accomplished something today? What makes me happy? I know what makes me happy, and it's valuing and giving for other people and feeling like I used all of the skills that I've gained for other people, right? I think it just starts with every day asking that question. And it gets to a point where if it's a pattern of unhappiness, if it's a pattern of the answers, no, I'm not happy, something's got to change. And what's the whole definition of insanity? Expecting a different outcome, but not changing anything. So if you want to go insane, stay in that path. But I think we should always be seeking our own happiness. And I forget it a lot. My husband says it. Why aren't you happy today? Well, what makes you
Yeah.
happy? So he reflects on it and made me think on it over the years we've been married is what does make me happy? You know, and
Like a
he's a
self,
big one.
yeah. It's like
Important.
a self audit almost every single day. That sounds like you were doing, and there was enough that didn't line up that it was time to do something. I think that's something we can all be better at is that self-reflection. Sometimes we get this inertia and we go and we go and we go and we don't stop to reflect other than are we making more money, right? Other than that, we're not really reflecting about family and spirituality and health and happiness. We're not always, we've built an inertia. So I like the advice you gave. Literally, it's a self audit every single day, a self reflection, and to define for yourself what happiness is. You are very clear on it. It might be different for someone else.
And it changes at different points in our lives, I would think, right?
I
Like what
definitely agree with
happened
that.
when you're younger, does it make you happy now? Is it the same thing?
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. It does change. And I think in a career for 14 years,
Mm.
I find when I'm happy, I don't have to think about it. Time flies quickly, right? But
Mm.
when I'm not happy or things go wrong, everybody pinpoints that. Everybody complains about the bad. Everybody notices the negative. And when it got to a point where I realized it was every single week, it was another day where that unhappiness was creeping in. And I'm trying to focus on the positives, which is what I'm good at, is focusing on the glass half full. And I can no longer do that. It is a problem. So I think that was my tipping point, Rebecca, when you asked about when
Yeah.
should you make a change.
Yeah. Thank you again for sharing that. Tell us about the future with your business, with Wise Coatings. We know we're hoping that children will become part of it. Are you going to take over North Carolina? Are you going to scale? What are you thinking with your business?
I think scaling would be nice, but at this point, too, a little over 2 years in, it's a little bit overwhelming to think about scaling. We do scale in the fact that there's other territories that have opened around us in North Carolina, which is great. I want to partner. We do have our eye on an area we'd like to scale to in the next couple of years. We have a plan, a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year. Um, but yeah, I think plan for the family, husband partnering with me a little bit more, children hopefully interested in it to want to take over. And at the end of the day, I want us to be the leader in our area in North Carolina and across the US that Wise is the best because we focus on problem solving for the customer. We're not just in and out for a job or a paycheck, because we build the relationships with our customers that we do. I want the Google reviews to reflect it. I want the job satisfaction to reflect it. And I want referrals to be so continuous. We feel like we never spend money on marketing because everybody just talks about us all the time. That's my goal.
That's clear. Boom,
Great
boom,
goals.
boom.
Great goals. Wonderful.
So,
So
go ahead, Tracy. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, Krystal, if somebody wants to hear more about you or about Wise Coding, how could they get in touch with you?
Well, Wise has a main website, which is great because it's just www.wisecoatings.com. They all are split into our territories. So mine is /Raleigh. But we also have our direct email, which is my first name and last name at wisecoatings.com. And then I'm happy to share phone in the future, but I think email is the best way to start.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Krystal, I have walked away with some aha moments here. Especially that combination of that understanding what makes you happy and checking in with yourself, because I don't think I've ever done that. And then this other part where you've tied your happiness to putting others first, serving others. It's really intertwined. And as I was thinking about it, I'm going, yeah, the times I'm ecstatic and I'm happy are those times, right? Where I know I've brought value. I know I've made a difference. So thank you for bringing it front and center for me and hopefully for many of our listeners. So really
Well,
appreciate your.
thank you. And thank you for having me so I can check my bucket list of being on a podcast. Yeah, I appreciate it. Double win.
And Tracy, your final thoughts.
So I think the biggest takeaway for me today, Rebecca and Krystal, was when Krystal said, don't stop until you find what makes you happy every day. So I think that there is a difference between finding what makes you happy and finding what makes you happy every day. Because like you said, Rebecca, you can have a moment of happy, but do people really have a full day of happiness? And I think you're so inspirational to our listeners so that they stop and think, am I really happy doing what I'm doing? Could I be happier? Am I using all of my skill sets? I find it very inspirational and motivational, and I really appreciate that you created the space for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate that. You ladies make me feel very good today. I appreciate it. I'm glad I joined.
I'm glad you did too, girl.
Mm.
Yeah, it's the aha moments, do light bulbs going on here. And what's fascinating is how it really, I never thought about purpose and happiness being so intertwined. But it really is, isn't it? That when you're living your purpose and you're putting others first and you're serving others, it really is intertwined with happiness. And I hadn't ever really put that together. So again, thank you for joining us, Krystal. And thank you to those listening in today. Make sure to comment, share, like Krystal Greenhaw's interview today. We appreciate you listening in. And of course, we're going to see you next week on another episode of the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged.